Gentlemen, this sort of struck me this morning. I want to have a quick little chin wag with you guys about it. I use that term only
every time.
Only when Mike's on.
I had a comment about it at some point, and it never fails. Yeah, it's the visual inside my head, and you just gave it life.
It's another reason why the podcast version is slightly lacking. Thank you so much, by the way, to everyone who's been subscribing and reviewing us. We really appreciate it. But yes, as I was saying, I was watching one of the latest episodes of the Jinquisition, and Jim Sterling was talking about how Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 is oddly unique in that it doesn't have a season pass,
right,
which is unique considering it's a game put out by EA, right? And then also sort of thinking that Far Cry Primal, which is a Ubisoft game, and they tend to also have done season pass or launched DLC or something, that's also a game that has launched with none of that.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like earlier this week or late last week, one of the developers on The Division for Ubisoft was getting out there and saying there won't be any microtransactions on launch, and there won't be any pay-to-win stuff at all at any stage. And people are sort of getting out ahead of this in a way that they weren't last year when we had the Evolve problem, where this was a game that was coming out which had 12 different, well, it didn't have 12 different, it only had 3 or 4 different ways to buy it, which if you actually put the time in, wasn't that complicated, but it totally scrambled people because they felt like, oh God, I'm going to buy a $60 game and then suddenly I'm not going to have the best version. I'm going to have this truncated version.
Yeah.
So do you think, I know it's it's only 2 pieces of data and it doesn't represent an overall trend or anything, but do you think that maybe games companies now are being a little bit more hesitant when it comes to being so upfront about their season passes?
I think they're willing to experiment now. I think they're finding that there's a certain amount of the audience that doesn't really like that idea and doesn't latch onto it. But the other side of that, though, is the fact that you look at something like PvZ2 and Far Cry Primal, they're sort of built on the back of existing games, and they might not need that extra financial bump that comes from a season pass, and so it's a good opportunity to experiment with not offering it. That might help them incentivize it. The Division, on the other hand, that's very different.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole new property that seems to be pretty complicated and taking a long time to make. So the fact that they're not trying to get more money back through season passes and extra DLC and microtransactions does seem a bit odd to me.
It almost seems counterintuitive that you're right. When it comes to, they tend not to do it for these are 2 franchises which have been relatively established and people know what they are. But then you would also think that if you want to sell DLC, you'd only do them in a franchise in which there's a fan base. Right. Assassin's Creed's a good example of I love Assassin's Creed, I'm going to buy the game and I get the season pass because I'll be all in. For instance, Fallout is one for me where I haven't bought the season pass. Actually, I wish I had now because it's just gone up by $20
this morning, right?
Damn it.
Yeah.
Shit. Those are situations in which, of course I'll buy it because I'm a fan of this series.
I've never purchased a season pass.
Have you not? No.
Never. To me, the idea of throwing down money for things that you are totally blind to, they might say, oh, we have X number of expansions and this type of additions, like characters or stages coming or whatever, but you really don't know what you're getting into.
The Fallout one's a perfect example because they put the price up because they're it's actually going to be more.
Yeah.
But it still shows that they didn't, when they were putting a price tag on it,
they didn't know
even know.
Yeah, they had no clue. Yeah, it seems like such a shady business move to me. I don't think it's evil, but I just think it confuses everybody in terms of how we think about these games. Is it at what it is at launch or is it what it is 6 months after launch?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Because it's never really clear to me what I'm getting if I invest in that. I just don't.
It's weird. I wonder if it's so particular game to game as well, because there are some games where it's again, like Fallout, I'm oh yes, I guess season pass stuff makes sense because it's this large open world and you can plug stories into it. Whereas when I think about a game, for whatever reason, when I think about a game like Assassin's Creed, I think, no, to me that's a game that wraps itself up. It is a story which is sort of contained.
Right.
So
anything you add on to that is just sort of a different experience at that point.
It's superfluous, or it's been taken out, which is the worst possible thing. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's very much a case-by-case basis because, you have Rocket League, which it makes sense to keep adding incrementally to it because, it's these small, aesthetic things that you can pay $2 for every once in a while.
Good points. I've bought every single one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't buy this stuff usually.
Yeah, but if they had said up front, you want to do a $30 season pass for the next 3 years, the season pass inherently becomes a gamble, especially when the developers, like you had mentioned, they themselves don't know sometimes. A lot of developers now, not that this is the case with Firaxis, but I remember Jake Solomon saying that they did not start working on the DLC until XCOM 2 was finished.
Right.
So, and that's another case where they don't know what's going to be coming out. And I don't believe there was a season pass for that. But I mean, obviously, there's paid DLC down the road. I think it's worth waiting to see what you're getting into because, like if you pay for the season pass, you're locked in. And I don't know. It does always raise suspicion with me. I don't know that all developers are inherently doing it to just kind of get money up front. But I guess that like inherently that's what it's for. So I don't know. I've always been kind of suspicious about it.
Yeah. If I can return a game I don't like, or at least trade it back in for credit. What do I do with the season pass that's full of stuff that I just don't care about?
Yeah, especially in the digital domain, it's way harder to make those calls right up front.
I was asking Justin about it because I really love to know like how they sell. Like we've no visibility on how these season passes do. You have to imagine that some of them do pretty well. Like I imagine Call of Duty's, for instance, like they built Elite off of that. Obviously, that's not around anymore. But and I was trying to look at like Steam Spy or something to see if you could like figure out what the sales were of them. But there's none there. You can't see it. I'd love to know because to me it's like who's buying these? Like even when I worked in retail, people didn't really pre-order that often. Like we put all this effort into making sure there's pre-order stuff all over the shops, but like people didn't really pre-order.
Yeah.
Like they kind of knew. They pre-order for the ones who were like, oh, you're gonna have a problem getting GTA 4 because it's gonna be sold out. But like otherwise,
but even these days, does that even happen? Do
like
games sell out?
I mean, they're digital now anyway. So
right, exactly. So you have that option. But yeah, like special editions are the only things worth pre-ordering, I think.
Yeah, it's really weird. I feel like for instance, Fire Emblem was like that's a really good case for a pre-order that game because they're only making a couple of
it's all out in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that edition. Yeah. I'd love to know. The weird thing is then when we like talk to people, in the comments or on the chat or whatever, it's almost unanimously people who do not like DLC or season passes. So like, is this? I'm just wondering like, is this trend against it a reaction to that reality, or if we are only viewing this very small piece of the pie and that actually there are millions of people pre-ordering and buying season passes?
Well, that's a problem we face being in the games press anyway. We have such like this weird hyper focus on like our little world, and we try to understand the broader view, but it's difficult. And I think publishers probably have that same problem, understanding their audience completely.
Yeah, to I guess extrapolate a little bit, I guess it would. I hope it does become a trend. I hope that developers and publishers have realized there's enough of a stigma attached to the deals like this that maybe it actually becomes harmful to have these in the long run.
Like that's what I was wondering is like the same thing in any business is if you're going after money, it usually takes a couple of years before people realize that this is a bad idea. It usually takes somebody losing their job and a new person coming in and going, let's not do this shit anymore for them to stop doing it. So I wonder if this is a lot of companies being like finally like actually this is causing more harm than good. It's ruining the relationship with our community. That's an investment that's really important. Maybe we should stop doing it. I mean, Ubisoft definitely have had that reaction with pulling back on Assassin's Creed a little bit and like not being so crazy about their DLC plans in future. So
like when
like
when I see something about a season pass, I immediately see a publisher who's desperate. Which may or may not be true, but that's sort of my immediate takeaway is like, oh, they're not going to make enough on the game that they've released, and they need to sort of like, stuff the coffers with with this money that they'll put into something down the road. But right now, it's like, crap, we got to make some more money back.
I'm Rig Grin Shanpan, I'm going to go with. I think publishers don't care how many pre-order or buy DLC. For them, the numbers don't matter because it financially benefits them anyhow. Like, that's a good point. It's like any money earned is money, especially if it's additional content on top of your base game. Yeah. Like, I wonder how hard it is for them to, like, extrapolate how much it costs to make the DLC, considering so much of the work for the DLC was already done. Again, it's probably case by case, but
or even like subsequent games, whether they're sequels or other properties. Talking to a ton of developers, they always say if you're a bigger company. I remember when I used to talk to like Looking Glass Studios, they said every game they made was just the most like 70-something% of the money was going towards something else they were going to make or making. It's just this. I don't know if that's still the case because this was a few years ago, but it's like a cascading structure that kind of just keeps feeding back into itself.
It's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Let us know what you think. Let us know with your anecdotal evidence. Do you buy season passes? Did you buy season passes in the past and then stop buying them now, maybe? I wonder if that's a trend that people have had. The Fallout DLC, for instance, is that one that you've jumped in on? Let us know in the comments below.